We're going to be talking today about getting started with LifeQI, really an introductory session to the platform, and talk you through some of the core functionality, mainly around the project space. So I'm sure there's different types of people joining the webinar. There's probably some of you who have never used LifeQI before, so this will be a good introduction for you, and maybe some of you that have used it in the past and want a bit of a refresher. So there'll be something for everyone within here. Okay, so before we dive into the system itself and start talking through that, I just want to spend a little bit of time on our website, just for those of you who might be new to LifeQI. So LifeQI, just to introduce it, is a web-based software. It's used for facilitating, managing, and tracking quality improvement work. If you want some more information, obviously come to our website here, lifeqisystem.com, just to talk you through some of the information you'll find on here. So if you want to come and learn about the different features of the platform, so come read about these here in the features area, read about the different QI tools that you might want to use, community element, and also some of the reporting and dashboards and things that you can access in the platform. So that's really useful. We also have the section on the use cases. We have 3 principal use cases of the system. So there's lots of information in here about how other organizations use LifeQI, both within the organization, within sort of wider collaborative work, and also in terms of building capability in QI. So please come and use those resources. We also have this area, which has a whole range of different sections. So a few things that might be interesting for you. First one being the blog. So the blog is packed full of great articles about improvement, quality improvement, including things about the tools, also about the process, and how to sort of build that and the process of the improvement journey and so on. So please come and look at that if you're interested in improvement tools, and I'm sure many of you are. You can access that here. You can also see past webinars and get some of those on demand within the webinar space. And we've also got a help center, which is where you can get all your help and resources that you might need as you go through your use of the platform. So I should say as well, I'm joined by my colleague today, Lewis. So Lewis is going to be manning the chat and Q&A. So if you do have any questions, please send them Lewis's way. I guess for anyone who's already a user of LifeQI, might have come across Lewis. He's one of a super support team, so he'll be there to answer any of your questions as they come in. Also in the chat, if any of you wanted to share where you're from, what you're looking to use LifeQI for, anything you wanted to share, like be interested to hear about that. It'd be great to hear that. You know, maybe there's other people on the webinar who are working on similar things. You can develop a network that way. Okay, so with time in mind, I'm going to move into the platform and start talking through the core element of the webinar, which is really how you get started in LifeQI and how you run your first project or set up your first project in the system. So we're logged in here into our demo system, and we're going to talk through basic orientation and then go in and set up a project. So you can see the main menu on the left-hand side. So these are all the different areas of the system. And we're here on my start page. So every user has their own login, so you'll come into your own personalized space. And this is where you can access all the things that you're involved with within the platform. So you can see some things on here, like different projects that I'm involved with listed out here. You can manage things like invites. So if you've been invited to a new project, you'd see that here. You come and accept those. You can see people you're working with, different groups you may be involved with, programs of work, dashboards, etc. So really it's a navigation page, getting you to where you need to go within the system nice and quickly. It's also where you can access your profile. So if you did want to come and add like a profile picture and any information about you, you can do that through here. Just go to your profile and you can add those elements within there. Okay, so I'm going to move now into the project space and first talk through the project listing. So this is what we see on the page here. So as you come into the project space, you'll automatically see any of your projects that are currently active. So those are the filters that are applied here. So you'll see those listed here if you have projects that are active. You can also search projects from across your organization. So change a few of these filters, which you can do just by clicking on these over here. Or you can change the filters by clicking on this one here. You could go into a bit more detail, look at, for example, recently progressed projects in here, or recently created projects, sort of filter down the list of projects that you're seeing using that. So that's really useful to sort of look at the portfolio of projects. If you are starting a new project, we always try and recommend that people do that to try and learn from past projects that might have happened in the organization. And yeah, take that forward into their own work, essentially. There's also the search bar up here. So if you've got text or keywords that you wanted to search, different topics. So if I type in the topic here, that's going to narrow down my projects, looking at titles, looking at the aim statements. And yeah, you can see my narrowed down list of projects here. So yeah, all these search functions, really useful, sort of understanding the different work and that you can come and learn from. So we're going to talk through the process now of starting a new project. So to do that, you come up here, start a new project, and this opens up a wizard, which basically guides you through the process of initiating a project in the system. So you'll be faced with this screen. So it's going to ask you for some basic information about your project and what you're trying to achieve. So any of the fields that you see in red, these are mandatory fields, so you have to populate those. The others are optional, but also all of these fields you can change later as well if you wanted to. So obviously, got to give your project a title. So today we're learning Life QI. So enter your problem, move in, think about your aim statement. So what are you trying to achieve? You probably want to think about targets around that, so time bounding that and so on. If you need any help as you go through these different fields, as you're trying to populate them, you can see these tooltips that you can access here. So if I'm thinking about the aim statement, it's giving me some ideas of things to think about and some examples, good and bad, to consider as I'm going about writing this. So I want to learn Life QI in 45 minutes. So yeah, basically work through the process, populate these, always remembering that you can come and update these and edit these later as well. So it doesn't have to be perfect first time round. Okay, so moving on to the next page, this is where you manage the members of the project. So pretty simple really, starts with yourself as a member and also your organization. You can invite new members using the button here. So if I come in here and come and invite Lewis as an example. So click on Lewis. It is then asking me for what is Lewis's role on the project. So is he a member of the project? Is he a sponsor? And so on. So I'm going to make Lewis a sponsor of this project. It's then also asking what sort of access you want to give Lewis to this project. So does he need access just to view the information? If so, you'd untick these other two, just leave that one as yes. Does he need to edit, or does he need full administrative rights on the project? So I'm going to give Lewis full rights on the project. You can see summaries of each of these by clicking on the tooltips here. So set that up, click add, and then you can see Lewis now appears in the members list, and it says that we're ready to invite him. So as soon as we initiate this project, then Lewis will get that invite to come and join. So he'll get an email, click the link, and come and join the project with you. You can also invite here groups of people, or add in things like lead departments and divisions. So you come and search these here. So if you were part of a group you wanted to add, or you wanted to add a division, you come and do that. So we just give view rights here. So add those to the list as well. Just like everything else, you can do this later. Some people like to set up a project and then maybe invite people once they've got a bit more content in there, and that's fine as well. But this is just one avenue to do that. So then we've got the privacy settings here. So this is set to only members can view. So anyone listed here would be able to view this project. There is the facility to share as well, which would share beyond the group, this membership. So you can change that, but the default is that only members will be able to view the information. So yeah, that's added in as a default. Okay, next page, so on step 5, is all around categorizing projects. So there's a couple of different ways to categorize projects we can see here. So the first one is linking priorities. So depending on how your organization is set up within the system, you may have priorities set for the organization, and therefore when you start your project, you have the option to link your projects to these different priority areas. You can see we've got a few different priorities listed on the project here. So I'm going to link my project to this priority. So you can see that's now in the list. And that means that, you know, if you were to pull up if someone was to pull up a dashboard on, you know, what is going on in improving staff experience, then this project would form part of that data set, part of that analysis. So that's one way of categorizing projects. Another way is tags. So you can add tags. Tags can be anything really from different topics. So like pressure sores, for example. It might also be things like different regulatory requirements. So we've got a CQC one here. It's a UK example. Yeah, quite flexible. Could be lots of different things, but yeah, use these tags to group your projects, categorize your projects. Just makes it a bit easier to find projects and analyze sort of the variety of projects that's going on. I should say as well, you can add multiples of these. I've just added one of each, but obviously you can do multiples of those. Okay. Then last stage really is to define time bound it. So when's it happening? Where's it happening? And then go and create that project. So as soon as you create that, that's then setting up the project for you in the system. And then we'll take you directly onto the project page where you'll see the basic information that you've already input. So this is now the project page. So I'm going to talk through here through this sort of structure with you now. So you can see on this first page, on the general page, you can see the different tabs. These represent different bits of the project. I'm just going to drop this guide out for a minute. So these different pieces of the project, and then below that we've got this glance panel. So this is like a status update really of this project. So you can see things like the project progress score. I'm going to show you very quickly how this project progress score works. This is the principal way of tracking progress within the system. It is a 10-point score. It's the IHI's project progress score that's baked into the system. And your project will always start at 0.5. And this is the definition you can see for that. And then basically the idea is, as you move through different phases of your project, you start to perform different tasks. And ultimately, as you start to demonstrate, or hopefully improvement within your measures, then you can come and update this, keep track of where you are within the process, really. So you see each of these have nice definitions that you can follow, and it's a self-guided score. So you basically look and see in which one you sort of identify current state of your project. So really useful. If you want to change that, you just come and hit change score, and that'll update that all for you. So we don't have anything in our project yet, so we won't update that. But also on the glance panel, you can see the project team. So this is where you can view that. So if I click on here, you can see what we set up earlier. So myself and the organization as members of the project. Also Lewis, we're waiting for them to accept, hasn't accepted his invite yet. But as soon as they do, then they'll become bold on the members list as well. Okay, and then there's, we don't have any of these elements yet in the project, so the driver diagram, any measures or PDSAs, but we'll go about setting those up now as we work through. Just to point out as well, below that, we've got all the project charter information that we've been through and populated. So you can see that listed here, along with the tags and priorities that we listed out. So if you did want to edit any of those at this point, you come and click the edit button, come and change what you need, and then just make sure you click save afterwards and commit those changes, and then that'll update those fields for you. Okay. Right, so moving on into the project. So one of the first things people often use within the project is the driver diagram tool. So this is really where you can think about the logic model for how you're going to reach your aim. It's really simple to use and just a really good process to go through to understand the process that you're going to use to improve. So if you want to use this tool, basically come in, click the edit button, you can add in primary drivers. So add in a couple of primary drivers. You can then link off those by clicking on the plus button here. We'll join a link to some secondary drivers if you want to do that. I'll link one off here for number 3. So that's thinking about what's going to drive your change. And then the final column is about listing changes that you could potentially test. So just pop in a couple of placeholders here. So that's basically how you use it. It's really, really simple. Just using the pluses. If you want to do a multi-link, so if you wanted to link this change idea to multiple drivers, you come and click on the pin and then go and pin it to the relevant driver, and it just draws those lines in there for you. This is currently on automatic ordering. You can change that to a manual if you wanted to come and move these around and make it more visually appealing. But the manual one as a default sort of tries to make it as sort of logical as possible. So super simple. Something else you might also want to do is change your colors. Obviously we're all in black here, which is a little bit boring. So you can come and add some new colors. Pick whatever colors you want to use. And so you give them a key if you wanted to. That could be anything you like. And then you come and apply those to your fields. Yeah, apply them to your drivers, to your change ideas. And yeah, just gives your diagram really a bit more visual appeal, makes it a bit easier to read. You can also change the color of the text. Like if you've got a really light background, you might want to have a dark text, so you can do that sort of thing as well. So build out your diagram. obviously, as before, make sure you're saving this. Always best, as with anything, to like do a few saves as you go through the process. But yeah, you can see the version there once it's saved. These diagrams can get quite big. So if you do have a big driver diagram, you want to expand it and look at it, you can do that here. And you can also export these. So if you wanted to come and export the driver diagram, come and do that through the actions button there. Yeah, so that's kind of often the first step. I guess we'll move along the different phases now. Next one to look at measures and charts. It's often can be a bit of a daunting bit of improvement work is thinking about measures and data. So this tool within here makes that really, really simple for you. So within this project, I'm going to come in and add a new measure. So we're going to measure something to gauge whether we're improving. So you need to give that measure a title. So give it something really original. Choose a type of measure. So there's 3 types of measure listed here. So an outcome measure, if it's the primary outcome measure of the project, process measure, that's something you're sort of measuring to see if you're on the right track, and then a balance measure, something you're measuring to check there's not a detrimental effect somewhere else, essentially. So this is going to be my outcome measure. And then this measure, the rest of this wizard is really guiding you through defining that measure. So an operational definition. So thinking about, what is this, what is the definition of this measure? Why is it important? And such like. There's a bit of guidance here in the tooltips that you can access. You can then go through and think about data collection plans. So how are you going to collect data for this measure? Particularly important if it's not just you involved on the project. So if you have colleagues involved in the project, other people are going to be involved in collecting data, then this is the chance really to make sure that everyone's doing it in a consistent format. Let's come and document that here. And then that leads into a couple of really important fields. And these are the chart type and the data collection frequency. And these are really important because once these are set up within a measure, you can't change these at a later date. So once you define your measure through this process, you can't change the chart type or data collection frequency. Obviously, you could go and recreate a new measure and copy your data over. But yeah, essentially, good to have a bit of a think about these beforehand. You can see, if you're sort of familiar with different improvement chart types, SBC charts, you can see them listed here. What I find really useful is some of the guidance that's given around the different chart types. So we have a bit of a summary of all the different chart types. So run chart is the default in the system. Come read about that here. If you're interested in the other types of control chart, you can come and read about those. Like P chart, here it is. Some examples when it might be useful and what data you would need to capture to be able to use that type of chart. So if you're wondering what sort of charts to use for your data, please come and have a look at this guide. Have a think about that. There's also, I mentioned our blog earlier, there's lots of information on our blog about that. And also in our help center, you can get some information around different chart types that are available. So I'm going to leave it as a run chart for this example. And then next one is defining your data collection frequency. So if it's some data that you're collecting on a regular basis, you can come and define that here. So this, yeah, gives you options: yearly, weekly, quarterly, monthly, so on. If it's something that's an irregular occurrence, it's not on a routine date, then obviously you might have unknown date. So yeah, you can add that. In this case, I'm going to choose a monthly measure, so something I'm going to add on a monthly basis. You can then, next phase is to link any drivers to this. So if I want to come and link a driver, this is my outcome measure, so I'm actually going to link it to my aim. You might also, you might link it to one of the other drivers as well. So you can link those in here. And that means when you go back to your driver diagram, you'll see these measures are linked to those different drivers, which is really useful to sort of central store for that information. Okay. Just create that one. So that's just creating the measure. So all that information we've put in is now in the plan field. So you wouldn't actually populate these, but yeah, that's where you'd see it. You can see the link drivers, you can see the type of measure and so on. The charts area, so this is where we're actually going to enter our data. So I'm going to add a chart to this. You give your chart a name and add your data in here. So if I add a row of data, you can either come through and select your dates and add these data in, or if you manually, or if you have some data already, and this is often the case, you might have some baseline data. I've got this handy spreadsheet with plenty of data in. Then you can come and copy that and paste that into here as well. And that will add all of that data into the data table. And then all you need to do is come and create the chart. And that then adds the chart to your measure. So you can see we're in our measure, which we call test, chart, which is called test 1. And it's a monthly measure. And this is what the chart looks like. So you can see the data that we've entered here. You can see it's plotting that data set. It's a run chart. So it's calculating the center line here. You can see the average of that. You can also see highlighted at the top any special cause variation. So we've got a shift in data set here. Don't worry if you're not familiar what all these different terms are. You can click on it and find the definition. You can also hover over it and see the data points that it actually includes as well. So these are automatically showing you where you've got a statistical change in the data that might be significant. You might want to go and investigate. So once you've set up the chart, then there's a few things that you're probably going to want to do. So one of those is over time, you're going to need to add more data. So when you do that, you just come back into your chart. You go to edit up here, and then you can add new rows of data. So I've just added a new row. Then it asks me to redraw the chart, and then it's added that one to the chart. So really, really simple. Come and add your data, in this case on a monthly basis. Something else you might want to do is annotate some of these points. So if you have some significant event happening at this point, then you come and add a note. And that will add a note to the chart, which means that if I just save that change, when I click on here, I can see those. So yeah, if there's something you need to record, then do that here. You'll notice when I did that as well. You can also link in PDSA. So we haven't started any PDSAs in this project yet, but once you do start testing changes, you'll see your PDSAs listed here. So you can record when you started your PDSAs. Obviously that's important to then see what the effect of that change is on your data. So yeah, go ahead and do that. Also, one last thing on here is about phases. So there's 3 different phases of measurement: baseline, into testing phase, and then beyond that into sustaining phase. And so if you want to move, you can see we're in a baseline phase of measurement here. If we wanted to, let's say from this data point, we actually wanted to, we're going to run a PDSA at this point. So we're going into a testing phase. You can click next phase, and that will update that and go in testing. And that will do things like keep your median static through the test phase, so you can analyze how those changes have an effect. Yeah, so really, really helpful tool, really useful. You know, you can't really do anything wrong. So yeah, please come in and use this. Great as well if you're trying to test out some different chart types or see what would work better for your data. You come and obviously make different versions for those. So yes, really, really useful. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to have a look through the PDSAs section. So this is where PDSAs, plan, do, study, act cycles, This is where we record all the information around the changes that are being implemented. And we do that by logging new PDSA ramps. So I'm going to start a new ramp. So PDSA is typically made of ramps and then cycles of change. So you need to give this Plan, Do, Study, Act a name. So give it a title. So we're going to watch the webinar, and the aim is to learn more about LifeQI. Change idea, you could link it to one of your change ideas on your driver diagram. Who's responsible for this? So I'm responsible, and I'm doing it today. You can add notes or overview, anything that might be important, really. That's just a chance to add in any of that information. And then you can also add tasks. So build out a task list that you can then come and tick off as you do them. So I needed to register for a webinar. And then you could just, if you can type. So come and do that, add any notes, assign those to people if it's for somebody else, give due dates and such like, basically build that out. You can build a few different tasks within here. And it just means that you can keep track of that as you go about implementing those changes. So next up, predict what's going to happen. So make your prediction there. Link in any measures you might be using to monitor how successful this change has been. So is there something you're measuring that's going to give you an indication of this change being successful? Link those here. Come and pick your measures. We've only got one in this project. I'll come and link that into here. And then hit create. And that will create your PDSA cycle. You'll see all of the plan information populated that you've just filled out. Also, if you do want to edit any of this, you can do that here, just as before. Your linked measure that you've added. And then the rest of the form here is around recording the other elements of the PDSA. So the do, that is really what happened when you implemented this change. So a little bit of thought around analysis around that. Study, so how did it compare to what you thought was going to happen? And obviously important to think about that. And then the act is what you're going to do next. So are you going to adopt this change and use it elsewhere? Are you going to abandon the change, do something else, or are you going to adapt it and change it slightly? If you do want to adapt it, then you can use this button here to spin a new cycle of change and sort of iterate that change and take that forward into a new PDSA cycle, basically. Okay, I'm just going to pause actually at that point and ask Lewis if we've had any questions in the chat.
Yeah, cheers, Andrew. We have had one question. It's in regards to how to create quality improvement for completed projects. So I'm not sure if they'd like to elaborate on that a bit more, but the answer I gave was just to create the project, add all the information that they've acquired whilst they've completed the project outside of LifeQI, and then they can of course set that status to completed once they've added all that information. Again, I'm not sure if I've understood that correctly, but if they want to elaborate any further, that would be great. But that's the only one we've had so far. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Lewis.
No worries.
Yeah, so just to show you that, so there is a project status field. So we're just going back to the general page. You see the project status field here. So as you go through, if you start your project and go through the course of your project, that's going to be set as active. As you do get to the point where it's either completed or maybe it's cancelled, you come and update that, and that will update that field for you. So then if you're searching the list of projects, that might be a criteria that you're sort of searching on. So yeah, absolutely use that. Just while we're back here on the general page, you can see we've got a bit more content in our project now as we've gone through this process. So we now have a basic driver diagram. which you see a representation of here. We've now got that one measure that we added, and one PDSA that's been added as well. And we could probably go about changing our score. So yeah, probably a 2 now. So there we go. Update that guy. Yeah, so that's the current status of the project. I guess other things that are going to be useful for you when you go about your work within the project area is some of these things on the right-hand side. So we touched on the members panel earlier. So that's monitoring who can access or the project itself. We then have a couple of other things over here. So one of them is the project timeline. Now this is really useful, particularly if you're working as part of a team. You can come in to the project and see straight away by looking at the timeline who's been active in the project and what they've been doing. So you see, obviously, I've been making a bunch of changes in the project. So you can see that listed here. And you can also add additional commentary to this. So you could come and manually add things to the timeline. So you could do a status update. You're gonna do that. Go and populate something here. Did some great stuff. Create that. Now add that to the timeline so you can sort of manually keep everyone up to speed with what's happening. You can also view that on a calendar view if that's useful. So come and view that over time. You can populate things like your expected progress as well if you wanted to do that at the start of the project. Think about where you expect to be through the course of the project. So yeah, those are really useful features for sort of keeping track of the project itself. We then have the documents space just below that using this folder icon. And this is where you can upload any files, any files that are pertinent to the project or need sharing with the rest of the project team. So upload those into this space. You can structure them using folders, basically get everything there so people just come to this one space to access that information. Also really useful, if you are looking back on the project, come and see all that information in one place at the same time. And then the final feature on here is the notifications. So if you had a message that you wanted to send to the rest of the project team, you can do that here. So I'm going to write a quick message. Not sure why that's doing that. Try that one more time. No, not sure what's going on there. But you can write a message within there and post that to the team. So it might be, we're having a team meeting at 5 o'clock today. Here you go, notify the team, then everyone would get a notification of that. And that would also appear in the discussions area. Just to mention the discussions as well, you can come and start new discussions if you want to talk about different elements of the project. You can come and do that within this space. Okay, so I think that's most of what I was hoping to run through. So hopefully everyone's found that useful and is keen to sort of get in and start running their projects that they might have in mind. So if you want to come and do that, just nipping back to our website here, you can see if you come to the website, www.lifeguidesystem.com, you can log in straight from here. If you don't have an account, but you're interested in exploring the system and your organization doesn't currently use the system, you come and sign up for a free trial here as well. So please come and do that. And as you go about that, you will be able to access help as you need it. So help is available by our help center, which you can see here. So the help center has a whole range of articles, videos, step-by-step instructions and so on, with everything really that you need to know about the system and the basics of the tools and such like. So please come and do that. Also use our live chat and speak to one of our support team. If you're struggling, they'll point you in the right direction and get you where you need to go in your project. Okay, 2 minutes left. So final call for questions from Lewis.
Got to unmute myself. No more questions so far.
Okay, Great. Well, thank you everyone for sparing some time this afternoon to learn a little bit about LifeQI. Hopefully that's helpful, and please do get in touch if you do have any questions via the support team, or come to help@lifeqisystem.com. Thank you. Bye.